All right, so we can see that we're back in ArdaCraft after 4 years. It's been 4 years, Jack, since we last did this. I'm sure you guys have done a lot of work in that time.
It's been 4 years. We've been working hard on lots of different things. I'm really excited to show you all the stuff we've achieved over the last few years, and talk as well about where ArdaCraft is going in the future.
Awesome. And I see you've got a banner here in the hall. So that you said this is the spawn area where people first come into ArdaCraft, right?
Correct.
And,
yeah. So this is actually modeled on an Oxford college, the one that Tolkien himself was a professor at Merton, which you may have visited actually in person a couple of years ago. So we'll walk around and we'll see. We'll come out into the courtyard in a bit, but yeah, that 10 years. I mean, that we started back in November. We started back in November of 2014. So we had that celebration up last year, and it's a big milestone for us for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm really pumped to see what you guys have worked on. Folks, you might remember that stream from 4 years ago. But yeah, there's been a lot of updates and a lot of folks working really hard on this incredible project. It's an immense project. The map size blows my mind on this. But we'll get to that here in a minute. But what are we walking through right now? These are all we see different information graphics for folks.
Essentially, yeah, we basically created this little interactive area for people to explore when they first join, just to give them a sense of what is ArdaCraft all about. How can I help out? Some basic guides along here as well. You can see we have Tolkien's drawings up on the walls, all that kind of thing. So just to give us a sense of this is what we're all about. This is how you can help out, and maybe an introduction to how different we are to let's say normal Minecraft. So here we are out in the mob quad of Merton College.
Yeah.
And this is we've obviously based this directly on the real life location.
Yeah.
A little sort of the college chapel up there in the background. And yeah, Tolkien would have been very familiar with this place.
Very cool. Yeah, I have been here, and this is really cool to see it replicated in Minecraft.
Yeah. No, a lot of work's gone into this, and it's a nice scene setting device for people. I think when they first join. I mean, sometimes we get the inevitable question: is this Hogwarts? we have to explain.
Which, to be fair, there was scenes of Harry Potter were scenes of Harry Potter the films were filmed in Oxford, so it kind of makes sense. In a sense, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, certainly, well before Harry Potter even existed, this was Tolkien's kind of domain and his haunt. So we thought, we'd start with this. So this is the main kind of corridor you come down. This kind of takes you to the map. Again, there's a little bit of information about how you actually explore in the world. Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit about the Pathfinder as well. So. Worst, if you grab a Pathfinder, that would be great. And just show people kind of how it looks.
Now, what is a Pathfinder?
So a Pathfinder is basically a little thing that we've added to the world, essentially, and that allows people to explore Middle Earth along the paths that, for example, Frodo took through the world. So it essentially has a little golden thread in front of you, and that allows you to follow along, but also text will come up as you go, so you can see you're out to follow Frodo's path. That little golden thread that you're seeing appears there, and then that allows you to follow through. And it's a little custom thing we've added that helps people to kind of explore the world in a more kind of interactive way.
Yeah, so you can go on the exact path that Frodo and Sam went on, or pick your fellowship member, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. And it's a pretty fun feature. So if you step through this doorway, you get taken, hopefully, to Bag End.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Now we're back in Bag End. You may remember this from the stream a few years ago, but it's. There's been some visual upgrades, to put it that way. So as you come outside, you can see over in the distance, there's the Green Hill Country. And as we go through this stream today, you'll see that we have added this new mod called Distant Horizons, which enables you to see essentially incredibly further than was possible a few years ago without significant lag, essentially.
Yeah.
And this is like a game changer really for the project, because it means that you can actually experience the scale of the map in game, and you get a really good feeling for like how enormous this project is.
Yeah, as I was going back, I was revisiting our last stream from 4 years ago. I noticed, you kind of saw farther in the distance, like it wasn't loaded in and everything. And here, I can see like the hills and stuff way farther away than last time. From my, from just my brief scrubbing through our last stream.
Yeah, and it's a real game changer, because there are places that are suddenly almost given a new lease of life, because now you can see the mountains, or now you can see far off into the the coasts or the sea or whatever, and it just makes it so much more immersive.
Now, for people curious about the beings flying through the air, those are presumably people working on the map.
It's a mix of people working on the map and guests, people who can join the server. And I think this is something to maybe mention now, is that anyone who is who owns a copy of Minecraft can join the server, as long as you have Minecraft on PC. We have a very simple installation process. There's like a video that's like 2-3 minutes long, and then you can just join and explore Middle-earth for yourself. This isn't a closed project. We want people to come and visit, and that's why we are, it's part of the reason why we're here today on Node of the Rings, right, to talk to people about that.
Yeah. Now, for people like myself who would love to explore the area, but I would be a little scared of messing something up. I presume you have this set so like they can explore it without like actually accidentally destroying something, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So we have like full protections for everything. Like you can only edit things in the world if you've successfully applied for Builder, in effect.
So there you go.
If we just fly
like, you don't have to be nervous about messing up this beautiful creation. You can come in, just explore and have fun with it.
Absolutely. And if you just look kind of this way towards the hill, actually, some of you may recognize Tolkien's depiction of the mill and Hobbiton and the kind of the water in front of it. He did a watercolor of it, I think, maybe in the 40s or 50s. And we basically recreated that image exactly, like the placement of all the buildings, the mill, everything. So it's one of the fun parts of the project.
Very iconic illustration by Tolkien.
Yes, yeah. And quite different to the films in terms of the layout.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. They weren't able to find that exact hill shape in New Zealand, I guess, which is not the craziest thing. I think we'll just walk down the road now towards Bywater.
Great.
We'll just head down that way. We'll go and visit the Ivy Bush and the Green Dragon. And then what I'd like to do is show people how how the Pathfinder mode actually works in practice. Like,
Great.
What it looks like and how people can follow Frodo's path through the world.
Now, here in a bit, we'll, after a while, we'll start warping to different places so we can show you guys the different locations in a time-efficient way. Right now, we're walking around to show, just the immense detail and so you can get an appreciation for the scale of this project. Later, we'll kind of bounce around a little faster, but talk to us, Jack, about what is the scale of this thing? Because just looking in the Shire, I've played Minecraft with my kids enough that this is boggling my mind already. What's the scale of the map here?
So the scale of the map is 1:58. I should just say, by the way, we walked just past the Ivy Bush just now, and now we're in the courtyard of the Green Dragon in Bywater, so we've just switched villages. But the scale of the map is 1:58, which means that for every 58 meters in the quote-unquote real Middle-earth, right, it is a 1 meter distance on ours. Now, different locations are obviously scaled up within that, right? So it's not like the buildings are tiny.
Yes.
But the distances between those places is a lot smaller. But that being said, a lot smaller is a kind of relative term. The map is 2,500 square kilometers. It is 70 times, that's 70 times the scale of the size of Skyrim, for example, a game that many people will have played. It is much, much, much bigger than any AAA game that's out there. And frankly, we need it to be that big because Middle Earth is so enormous and also has so much like diversity and of locations and places in it, that it just needs to be that enormous.
Sort of a fun metric for like outside of the video game scale is that area is pretty equivalent to like Luxembourg or like Rhode Island in the United States. So we're huge, very, very big.
Wow.
Yeah. We're all filling it out. I think what we'll do now, by the way, is just we'll just go back to Bag End, which I can bring the cameraman back as well, and I'll just show people what the Pathfinder actually looks like in use. So if you bring that up and select Frodo's Path, that should kind of give you a sense of how it works. So if you select the chapter, so Frodo's Path, select a chapter, the chapter drop down there. No, further up, where it says select a chapter. Yeah, and just click 3 as company. There you go. So that should work. So if you escape out of that now, you should see the path in front of you. It should be just here, going around this way.
Oh, there we go.
And actually, I think to make this work properly, I think you'll need to bring up chat as well. So you'll need to bring up your HUD for the text to show. So there you go. Look, so as you explore, in effect, you are able to see kind of interesting details about the path as you go along.
Yeah.
And you have to hold the Pathfinder in your hand, obviously, like continually for that to like stay.
Okay. So you're given like the dates and actions and everything of what's happening.
Correct. Yeah. So if you're reading along or you're listening to the audiobook, which is an experience we like recommend to everyone, it means that you can like follow along like where you are in the text like more closely, right? And then you can relate everything to what's happening.
Interesting. So you have folks who listen to the audiobook and like sit here and and follow along the path as the audiobook is playing.
Yeah, it's like a semi-immersive kind of experience.
Oh, that's
in
fun.
effect.
The whole goal is everything from like a bush they go over to a bridge they cross should all be like accurately modeled, and you can explore all those little features.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, I mean, and the great thing as well is that as you explore a lot of time, I find that it almost kind of shifts your view of like what's happening. Like you might have a mental image of what was happening in the books or how a place was, but sometimes when you come to it, you're like, oh, like that's how it was, or that was different. Like the fact that, for example, in the book they don't go through Hobbiton at all. Like they are like we're in the fields right now because they avoided Hobbiton very consciously to like ensure that their leaving wouldn't be noticed by anyone. And so like as you wander through, you realize like, okay, these guys like were properly off road like, most of the time. And that's quite fun. What I think I'll do just quickly is zoom ahead to a more significant place on the path. Obviously, they spend their time, roaming through the Green Hill Country, and I will just get us to a point that I think even people who've only watched the films will recognize in this chapter.
I do love the aerial shots too.
Yes. Yeah.
The number of blocks, it just blows my mind. Like again.
Yeah,
like goofing off in Minecraft, because that's how I'll describe what I do, is goofing off in Minecraft with my kids. Like just seeing the number of blocks here is just absolutely crazy.
And trust me, it's going to get crazier.
Yeah, this is like the tutorial level compared to what we're going to go into today. So let me just bring our cameraman here.
Okay.
So if you follow through. And we'll go down. This is the point in the narrative where they've been in the Green Hill Country for I think a day by this point, and they're walking on the road, and they hear something coming up behind them. Some hooves on the road, right? And it's a famous scene, of course. So they basically duck in behind this tree.
Oh yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
And then down here.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah. So it's the kind of thing where you can actually you could almost, I mean, obviously the text here is nowhere near as detailed as the text in the book, but you could almost just use this and experience the Lord of the Rings in this way, which is quite fun.
Well, yeah, I imagine listening to the audiobook as that scene plays out. Like that'd be pretty cool to be in, seeing through Frodo's eyes, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to start skipping ahead now. Obviously, we've shown people, like, this is a single world. You can follow a road all the way from the Shire to Gondor if you want. But in the interest of time today, we will just zoom around a little bit more.
Like, so clearly it's not just a matter of, like, oh, you built Minas Tirith, and then some other spot you built Helm's Deep, and, like, you just warp to that. Like, it's all fleshed out. Like, you can travel between these places on foot, should you wish.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of the big appeal, I think, of the map for me. I mean, it wouldn't have as much, the server wouldn't have as much appeal to me if we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because this really is about, the most detailed recreation of Middle-earth ever made. And here we are in this is the Elven Glade, when they meet the elves in the Shire.
Yeah. Gildor.
This is Gildor, exactly, yeah. Sadly cut out of the films, or I think they just see them in the distance in the films, and then they go, "Wow,
they just
elves!"
see the extended. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas you get a bit more in the book.
Now you mentioned, when you're talking about the scale and the conversion of meters. So a Minecraft block. What is the size of a Minecraft block in this?
So believe it or not, this is actually like a controversial topic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So like for the purposes of just like saying how big the map is, we'll say that one block is 1 meter.
Okay.
But that like very much like depends on context sometimes, or like it's basically weird. It's a weird the way that it feels in game doesn't feel like a meter. Yeah, exactly. There's going to be like a war in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The comments section is going to be just rife with debate now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've just skipped us ahead now to Bucklebury Ferry, and we can just jump on and get a feeling of what it's like to leave the Shire.
Oh, nice. Jump. Yeah.
So yeah. Little thing that moves over the water. That stock up in that direction, those houses, and then before us is Brandy Hall.
So do you have dogs at Farmer Maggot's house, or are there animals?
We actually do. Yeah, really? There are animals. So yeah. So it's something that we like. I don't even know that we had them in the last stream. Okay. But it's something that we've started to introduce more into the world. Is like at the moment it's basically limited to like farm animals.
Yeah.
We don't have like animals out in the wilderness yet, but like it is something that we're starting to bring in, just like flocks of sheep in the fields and cows and all that kind of and it brings the world to life a little bit more.
Yeah. I love knowing that Grip, Fang, and Wolf are hanging out with Farmer Maggot.
They are, and they're all like individually named as well, so you can go up to them.
Oh, nice.
That's quite fun. Yeah, Bill the Pony's also in Bree, so we might.
Yes.
Cool. So we're just basically going through Bucklebury now. I think what I want to do just quickly before we leave the Shire behind is to show people that we've got the main Fellowship's route. We've built the whole Shire. Like, there's every single settlement is done. So what we'll do is I'll just take us to Mickle Delving or Michael Delving. I've heard it pronounced both ways.
Yeah, we're gonna get all the controversial things, like how people.
Let's get them all Balrog wings. Let's hit the.
Let's get it all.
We get some Moria, let's get some Michael Delving now. So this is the kind of, for those who don't know, the kind of de facto capital of the Shire, right? So it's where the mayor lives. It's in the west of the Shire. It's referenced in the text, but we never see it in actuality. Like it's never described. So we basically had almost completely free reign to do it, other than the fact that we knew the Lockholes were here, we knew the mayor lives here, and we knew that the Mavam House is here as well. But beyond that, we just were able to do whatever we needed. And something that you can see as we walk around the Shire in general is, and something that guests often comment on, is there are not as many hobbit holes as they think, and there are many more houses than they would realize. And that's because Tolkien tells us in the text that most hobbits lived in houses, like it's something that they got from men. And at this point, it was only the very poorest and the very richest who lived still in hobbit holes.
Yeah.
So we kind of reflect that in the build.
sort of another good reminder as we're going through all these places is, on the topic of houses. Any one of these houses, we've modeled what that person would be doing with their life, how they live. The interior is fully fleshed out, from the
That's great.
largest hobbit holes to these smaller buildings. It should all appear and feel seamless, and that's one of our
Yeah.
goals.
That's fantastic. And honestly, that's one of the things that stuck out to me of the Hobbiton movie set down in New Zealand. It's designed
Yes.
that way, where you have hobbit holes that belong to an angler, and so there's stuff and places for them to cook fish and fish hanging outside their house and everything. Like there's so much detail. That's so cool that you guys incorporated similar practices.
I do think there is absolutely, for me at least, a through line from like watching the behind the scenes of the films when I was young to doing this now, because that like through line of like just obsession with detail is so like key to everything that we do. And I think that like that was inoculated in me by watching the crazy amount of like the guys making the chainmail always comes to mind. Or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're here in the Matham House, by the way. So this is, if we just come through here, this is the kind of little museum that the Shire has. A little bit outdated in some ways from our build perspective, but still kind of a fun little like, oh, we actually have this that's like in a footnote somewhere, I think. And this is where Bilbo's mail shirt was kept for many years. It's not here at the moment because we're set after Bilbo's birthday party, so he's gone off to Rivendell with his mithril shirt. But
okay. So is this set before Fellowship, like before Frodo sets out, or what's the exact setting for this timeline?
So the date is 3006 of the Third Age, so it's 5 years after the birthday party, but like 12 years before before Frodo leaves the Shire.
Okay.
So, because there's that massive time gap in the books that the films just kind of skip over, right?
17 years,
yeah, like Frodo's like a 50-year-old man by the time he's like properly like aged by the time that they leave. So yeah, we're kind of set in that kind of intermediate period, and the thinking there was basically just like it means that the descriptions of the Lord of the Rings are basically accurate, but equally like we're not like. It's not actively at war yet. Like things are getting ready, but it's not like Minas Tirith is on fire or whatever.
Right.
And when we get to Isengard later, you'll see that the trees are all still in Isengard and that kind of thing. That too. Cool. I think so. That that's just we've seen genuinely today 5% of the Shire. There's all of the villages are out there. There's so much more to see. But I think what we'll do now is we'll just skip ahead to the House of Tom Bombadil.
Oh, yeah.
Again, in the theme of showing people places that are not in the films because we're doing it by the books.
Yeah.
We'll skip ahead to there and
the saddle used by Bulroar Took. That's awesome.
yeah, it's all in there. All those little lore references are they're all in there. Here we are at Bombadil.
This is Tom's house. Okay. Tom
Yeah.
Now, do you also have Old Man Willow somewhere down by?
We do. Yeah, he's in the forest. He's in the forest.
Oh,
although he's looking a little worse for wear these days. We need to update him with some of our newer blocks, which we'll talk about as we go through. But yeah, let's go into the house and have a little look around. So again, we get a pretty detailed description of the house in Tolkien's writings. We get this big table and the candles and the fire. And we go through into this side room here, and this is where the hobbits sleep. Which I always thought was funny that like Bombadil has like a guest room. Like who's who's visiting this guy? Like I don't know. Maybe he's got. I suppose he knows Farmer Maggot, so maybe Maggot would come over occasionally.
Right.
I don't know. But it's a funny one to think about. But yeah, it's always one of my favorite chapters in the books. Actually, I know people. Bombadil is controversial, but I like him.
I don't know. I guess there are some people who don't like him, but they're crazy,
including the head of the Tolkien Society.
I know. Yeah, Sean and I have had this discussion before. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's the head of the Tolkien Society, but he can be as wrong as anyone, and
that's exactly what I would say to him. Yeah. And as we emerge up onto the hill here, you start to get a feeling for the possibilities offered by our new mods. So you can see all the way over the old forest. You can see out over the Barrow Downs. You can see those standing stones left by the men of Arnor off in the distance. So it's you see what I mean when I say it's a game changer. It's really crazy how much more immersive. How much
farther you can see. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It helps it feel like an expansive world more rather than like a fishbowl, which
yes.
Yeah.
Precisely, yeah. No,
which I think is what we saw before, like the limit was much closer, which kind of makes it feel a bit more isolated, whereas this feels much more expansive.
Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll just skip ahead to Bree. We'll skip the Baradowns.
Yeah. We got to go meet Bill.
We do, yeah. We're gonna go see if he's there. And so Bree is something that. So in the last stream, I was just checking. This was heavily being reworked. Like things were flying up in the air. We had not finished this at all. But yes, this is now a complete build, and is more in line with our, should we say, like our current standards of building.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot more stone than probably you see in the movies, but there's still a bit of that kind of half timbered inspiration there as well. Mm-hmm. And like I said, like in every place, all of these buildings have interiors, all of them have purposes. We've done our research basically for all of these places.
Wow.
And of course, this in the middle here is the prancing pony.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you have the courtyard in the back with the two wings and the stables and stuff.
I do like that. The animals do add a flavor to it. Like a charm to it.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like, you hear the animals clucking in the back, like the chickens clucking. And it's like, you would hear that. You're in like a medieval settlement. That's what you would hear.
Yeah.
So we can go up into this is the common room. So this is where they meet Strider. This is where Frodo does his song and dance
table.
routine.
Yeah.
And I think Strider was like in this corner here. I think, just next to you. But yeah, it's a fun little room, and very much like inspired by like a really. There's lots of like old English pubs that have this kind of feel. Of,
yes. Yeah.
The timbers on the roof and the fire and the things hanging on the walls. And if we walk through here, this is the first room on your left is the parlor where they were put up. So,
okay, yeah.
Aragorn like meets them in here, and they have their like discussion about like Gandalf's left a letter and this kind of thing, and all that stuff. So that
here's my broken sword.
Yeah, here's my broken sword. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that all happens here. And the Prancing Pony and Bree in general was a lot of fun to build. I think if we go out and just fly up above it to get a sense of the scale of the town and the surrounding farmland as well, and the hills and everything. It was a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work to get this done.
So how long do you know, like each of these individual places, like how long it took you to finish these off? I know you've updated and stuff, but like the initial build.
So Bree, you mean, or like
yeah.
Bree was like about a year, I think. So obviously, like we're doing other stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
Other things are happening, so it's not just like Bree, or then we're just doing this, we're just doing that. But yeah, Bree was about a year, and Bree was a fun one because it's like it's kind of a very unique look. I mean, obviously we have like Coombe, Saddle, and Archer, like the other villages around it, but like they're a very like unique kind of isolated culture. So like it was a whole thing of like we have to work out how this looks. And then we do it, and then we never do it again. Because like there aren't any. There's not like the Kingdom of Bree or whatever. There's not like loads of stuff for us to do. So it was kind of fun one to work it all out, and then just like that's it, right? We're moving on.
Yeah,
now.
It's true. Yeah, Bree has such an interesting mix of ancestry and influences that you can't just chalk it up to it's not like a mini Gondor influence. Like there's so many different factors at play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we hope to show off a lot of the remnants of Arnor. For example, one of the buildings we just walked through that some people may identify as a church, but they'd be wrong, is an old Arnorian market hall. That's this building on our right here, and there are signs of old mosaics, and we sort of try to build in these layers of history through all of our projects, right? There are generations and millennia of stonework built here that are built on top of each other and recycled, and there's an old statue, and it's really our goal to make these places feel not just like as we know them in the book, right, but they're a reflection of Middle-earth history through all of its time period, and I think that's the part of the project I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, Bree is crazy, right? It's like 5,000 years of continuous settlement or something, or maybe longer.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to think about just what this place has been through over the years and all the changes it's seen and you know, the influence from Arnold, because presumably, like in the early days, it was you know, it looked nothing like this. It would have been completely different, like almost roundhouses, probably huts or something. And then, you know, what you see today is only there because like the Númenóreans and Arnorians showed up and like, you know, influenced them with building with stone and all that stuff. So it's cool to think about those layers of history.
Yeah.
If we just come up to the windmill, and we'll have a look at that before we go.
Yeah, and then of course, you know, there's the majority of the people are not Arnorian by descent, and you know, you've got the fall of Arnor, and like Bree continues, and it's on the intersection of two major trade routes. You know, it's a lot of It's a very, very interesting place.
Yeah, I mean, our kind of theory on that is like the reason that it survived is probably in all likelihood the dwarves, because they're the ones coming through this place. They're the ones who need this place to survive as a trading hub and also as just like a stop off when they're going from the Blue Mountains to Erebor and stuff. So they probably like were almost like a life support or lifeline to Bree that meant that it survived when so much of Arnold didn't.
What was the wheel back there that we just saw? The wheel.
The one at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually so you can't actually do this, but it's intended to be so that they can turn the top of the mill, so that wooden bit on top could actually rotate to face the wind, if you see what I mean. So it means that like wherever the prevailing wind direction is, they can continue to generate they can continue to grind the flour. And there's like a working mechanism inside there and stuff as well. It's very cool.
Oh, that's interesting.
So there was a guy, I mean, this is just a classic ArdaCraft thing of like, there was a guy who did loads of research on mills and then made this like to make sure it was like accurate to how mills should be.
Yeah. Now, before we leave Bree, we do have to go see Bill.
Oh, of course, yes. I think we were nearly at Bill Ferny's, actually. I think we skirted around.
I meant Bill the Pony, but yeah. Oh, I guess he would be there. Yeah, he would be there.
He would be at Bill Ferny's, yeah. Which is, I always thought it was funny that Bill Ferny named Bill the Pony after himself, and then...
Well, I think it was Sam that named him Bill, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Oh, you're right. Yeah. No, you're right, of course. Yeah. So this is Bill Ferny's house, not in the best state of repair, as you can see. And we'll just go through to the backyard where Bill's being kept. Not in the nicest enclosure either.
Yeah, because Bill the Pony is a little worse for the wear when they get him, but there he is. Yeah. Hey, there's Bill the Pony.
Yeah, but he lives in this very, not the highest animal welfare conditions, shall we say.
Right. Better days are coming, Bill. Hang in there, bud.
Wait 12 years and you'll be good. Probably quite a long time for a horse. Anyway.
I was going to say, now someone in the comments is going to be like, well, actually, ponies only live this many years.
Yeah. Well, if that's true, then we'll have to get rid of Bill, very sadly. Accuracy is the number one thing. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's crack on to, I think, let's have a quick look at Weathertop. Just because it's such an iconic location.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on to Rivendell and so on. So this is Weathertop. I mean, obviously, I think we may have seen this in the last stream, but again, just the updated visuals make everything better. And of course, the fact that you can see all around Weathertop, and actually, you get a feeling for why Weathertop was such an important location, because this is like this isolated hill at the end of the Weather Hills, and you can imagine with a tower built on this, you could see for miles and miles and miles all around. And it becomes this incredibly like important location for Arnor before the Witch King puts an end to all of that, basically. So Weathertop's cool.
This was a really important spot. I mean, it was fought over when the Kingdom of Arnor split into three. They all wanted this location.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, in the books itself, another slight difference from the films is that when they come here, they do come to the top and look out, but Frodo is actually stabbed down in the kind of dell below the hill itself, which we have as well. I think we have that inhabited currently as a ranger camp down on the western side of the hill, because presumably the rangers would pass through here,
Right?
and would kind of keep little stores of fuel and that kind of thing in these places. Cool. I don't think the Pathfinder's been set up in this location yet.
Oh yeah, it's still set on the other one.
On the other one, yeah. Okay, great, cool. So that's what I thought. The views from here are pretty spectacular.
So cool.
And we'll get better over time, and we'll talk about that later. But there will be an update. Okay, let's skip ahead to an interesting location, which we have added certainly since the last stream, and it's one that I think will, be of interest to people because it's one of these locations that's hinted at as existing in the books, but Tolkien never fully tells us that it exists, and you'll understand in a moment. So this we've named Guarestel. This is in the Angle, so between the rivers Greyflood and Loudwater. So just south of the Troll Shores, basically kind of near to Rivendell.
Okay.
And this place is the de facto capital of the Dunedain of the North.
Ah.
So this is where Aragorn
lives.
Yeah, Gilraine does live very near to here, actually. Yes, she's in her final year of life, actually, in our timeline. So she is a very old woman.
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah, she lives near here. This is where the heirs of Arnor, the heirs of Isildur, I should say, would have come to kind of be the chieftain of Dunedain. They would have been set up here. The idea basically being, you can see the Star of Arnor on the wall there.
Yeah.
The idea basically being is that this place, we were talking about layers of history. The idea is that this place was like an Arnorian villa when inhabited by a noble family of some sort in the days when Arnor was still a thing, and in the years since, the Dunedain have come to reuse it and kind of rebuild on the foundations of it to make it their sort of de facto capital in the north.
Yeah.
So
cool.
it's a cool little location, and it's kind of crazy to think this is almost all this. I mean, there's a few other small settlements. Yeah, exactly. What's left? I mean, there's a few other small settlements of Dunedain around the Angle, but compared to the ruined cities that we're about to go to Tharbad, to imagine the fall is kind of crazy. So that's but this is certainly one of my favorite locations on the server, because I mean I love the Dunedain. Aragorn's one of my favorite characters, and it's just super cool to wander around this place and imagine what life would have been like for the remaining rangers. And of course, this place, I think, is it Born of Hope, that fan film? They had something like this in that one as well.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So it's that kind of place. But yeah, you can see quite isolated. But again, with the emphasis we have on realism, of course they would have crops, of course they would have sheep, of course they would have, they'd be doing all of these things to kind of keep self-sufficient out here. Because I think that's something that people sometimes forget a little bit. I think they think of the Rangers as being these complete isolated guys, but of course they would have families, right? That there would be old people and children, and so there's a whole society that exists that we never really get to see.
Yeah.
But would be there, and that's one of the fun things about ArdaCraft, is that we get to fill in those little details that Tolkien kind of hinted at.
And I love you mentioned before we were recording, the research has, you said, even more so than last time, the focus on research into not only Tolkien's books and the things that he gives us breadcrumbs for, but also just historical accuracy, what Tolkien based this world on. Tell us a bit about what's kind of gone into that, as we I guess we're probably about to go to another location.
Yeah, we're about to go to Tharbad, actually, but that's a great opportunity. Actually, it's a great place to talk about these places. So Yeah, I mean, the research we do is a massively integral part of ArdaCraft. I mean, we have research documents, like a big Google Drive where everything is being compiled, and as part of that, we have experts who come on board, right? People who have real knowledge and real qualifications in these different subjects who help us out with stuff. So we have, for example, I mean, we'll talk about this more later, but we have geologists on the team. We have a guy who studies astronomy at a PhD level who worked on the star map that we'll talk about. Oh, wow. Like there is we have musicians who've contributed to our soundtrack. We have people who have studied history and archaeology, and all of these things go into what we are trying to achieve here. I don't know, Sean, do you have any thoughts on that, or what we're doing?
I think one of the big attractions, right, of ArdaCraft is that we have the vision to establish Middle Earth in this way, right? As Tolkien did, this very rich, historically informed world. And what's cool is not only do we attract experts in the field to come, give us their work and their advice and their love for Tolkien, we can get a lot of people interested in real history and real botany and real geology through identifying and working in the world. So at all levels, we both serve as our version of Middle Earth gets better because we get to be historically informed, but we also get to teach a lot because you have to, when you're building a house, you have to understand why you're putting in, the parts that you are, and that involves real research, reading real, historical papers and archaeology documents, and it all comes together in kind of what you're seeing here, right? And this is Tharbad.
Yeah. So for Tharbad, I mean, this was obviously a Númenorian port that was established, I think, originally by Eldarion a very, very long time ago, but then continued to be inhabited for an extremely long time. But over time, obviously, Arnor falls, Gondor loses power and withdraws out of the region. The final inhabitants are Dunlanding-type people who live in the ruins, and then they finally abandoned it about 100 years ago, just after the floods, after the Great Winter. So we have to think again about these layers of history, right? So we have to think about what would the layout of this place have been? What would all of these ruins actually meant? And what would they... Because obviously at the moment it's just mounds in the grass, and you have to kind of pick out these shapes in the way that real ruins are, right? But we have to think about what actually would this place have been? Where would the ships have been built? What are all the professions around the city? How would they have buried their dead? And what do those traditions look like? What does an ancient bridge look like once it's collapsed? As you can see, you saw when we first came to the city, the bridge is not in the best state. And then on top of all of that, I'll just teleport the cameraman to where I am. So I mentioned those Dunlandings. These are their roundhouses, the remnants of after 100 years of having been decaying in the marsh. That's all that's left. But of course, these would be here too. So these people would have lived almost. What's that Old English elder into your work? The work of giants. They would have looked upon all of this stuff and not even understood. The Romans when they left Britain, the people who were living there, would have lived in these ruins. And it's Tolkien's world has that quality to it, doesn't it? Of greater things in the past and living in a world of ruins and kind of ghosts and that. And so that's what we try to express here, I think.
Wow. Now, are there other remnants of Arnor? Have you guys built Annúminas or
Absolutely, yeah. We have. We can quickly show you that before we go to Rivendell, yeah. But Annúminas is absolutely I mean, it's one of our
we might have looked at that last time. I couldn't remember if Annúminas was one of the ones that we looked at.
Yeah, I think we did, but I can quickly bring us there just to get a sense of Arnor's big. There's a lot to it.
One of the key points there, right, is we have those key lore locations, but also throughout the wilds of Old Arnor, there are ancient walls and homesteads and villas and towns and cities that aren't mentioned but would have to naturally exist. Yeah, and you can find those. They're explorable.
Yeah, so there you have Evendim and the hills of Evendim.
Yeah.
And the old Palace of the King is up on the hill there in the throne hall. Not much left. It's not been time has not been kind to this place, but of course.
So this was once the capital of Arnor, and where Elendil would have lived. Lake Evendim, also before that, would have been the dwelling place of Galadriel and Celeborn before they moved on to Eregion.
Yeah, in one of the 5 different versions of the narrative.
Right?
That we get,
The tale of Galadriel and Celeborn. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a great location. It's really just all the ruins that we have to build. Tolkien's world is absolutely chock full of them, so we have to get good at building ruins and making them feel real, like real places. And there's a lot of reference from, as you can probably tell, like Roman ruins a lot of the time, because that's the kind of time period we're thinking about, and the distance between us and now. I mean, something I brought up in the past, we like to break these real-world comparisons, like when the citizens of Minas Tirith are looking at the ruins of Osgiliath, it's been about as long for them since Osgiliath was ruined as it is for us looking on the ruins of Rome now.
Wow.
It's that those gaps and spaces in time that Tolkien's world has are kind of crazy to think about sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do now is we'll quickly move on to Rivendell.
Great.
Because of course everyone loves to see that. Again, this is a place that we visited last time, but it's always fun to see it kind of in its full glory as it should be. Rivendell's one of those places that has really held up. We built it 6-7 years ago now, but it was just executed really well at the time.
Yeah. No, I remember this being a highlight of the tour for sure. Like, who doesn't love Rivendell? I mean, come on.
It's got to be. I mean, it's always like people's like, if you could visit any place in the world.
It's like, it's between the Shire and Rivendell most times when I ask people that question.
Yeah.
What I love about
the Shire. I was going to say with
server.
Good.
You track through like cliffs and gorges and these high moors, and then suddenly you descend down to this valley, and sort of that reveal, that approach really gives it like a nice context of like why the elves might have settled here, or why it's considered such a refuge in the narrative. It's the context.
Well, what's quite fun is we have guests who like get lost on their way to Rivendell, which is great because it's the hidden valley. Like it shouldn't be easy to find. It's like we've managed to hide this massive house quite well. And that's always quite fun. Even at the scale that we're at, I can't imagine it being like 1-to-1 and trying to find like this one valley in this massive region. I mean,
and that was the task that Boromir had, because they didn't know exactly where it was. That it's like we know it's in Ladris. Good luck.
I mean, we were just in Tharbad, which is where he passed through, and there's this like note in the narrative like, it's not really expressed in Lord of the Rings just how impressive it was that Boromir managed to like get all the way to Rivendell on his own, but it's like insane that he did that and didn't just die like
well, he loses his horse at Tharbad. And so it's like then he goes on foot the rest of the way.
On the walls here, this is a fun detail. The 4 kind of diamond shaped tapestries that you see on the walls are the insignia sigils of the 4 the sigils of the 4 High Kings of the Noldor.
Very cool.
So the last one, the one with the stars on it, being Gil-galad, of course. And that was it. No more High Kings of Noldor after that.
Right.
Because I think Elrond could have taken it. But
Elrond could have, but at that point, there's so few Noldor left. It would,
it's a bit of a hollow title. It
doesn't have its luster. It's like, well, congrats. There's like 12 of us left. So
you are the High King. Congrats. This is the Hall of Fire that we've just gone through. So the place of song and everything, and then they'll find a sleeping Bilbo later. Presumably, I think his room is like along the corridor. I mean, basically, Rivendell's kind of fun one as well, because we have to think about like, again, we have to apply that kind of realism. Like, it has to still be fantastical and wonderful and like like an awesome place to visit and see. But there's also the element of like, how do these people feed themselves, and where do so that has to be thought about, and like, how do they provide for all their own items and stuff. So this is Bilbo's room, by the way, with a big I think that's a Ted Naismith on the wall. But
yes, that's a Ted Naismith. I was just gonna ask, like, we've seen some art. We've seen some art pieces and stuff. Is that an inspiration as well, as you guys are creating these locations? I'm thinking of all the, amazing Tolkien art that's been made over the decades. Do you guys look at any of those for inspiration?
We absolutely do, yeah. We have like artists that we love. So Alan Lee would be like my number one, and probably the number one of like most people on the server. He's fantastic. There's a few other brilliant artists out there that I always shout out. Turner Mohan when I can.
Oh yeah,
he's really, really good. He's quite
really
similar
good
to Alan Lee, but he's got a really good eye for a lot of the stuff, and so we use him as much as we can. But to be honest, like over the years, what I will say is
Turin bar back there. I just had to shout that out because I love Children of
Turin is there.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic book. Yeah, but I was going to say, like over the years, actually, we have gravitated more and more away from like existing Tolkien art and more towards like historical stuff, right?
Okay.
And you'll see that in Gondor. Like we have really gone all in on like ancient Mediterranean inspiration for all of this stuff, and some artists do that, and then some artists take it in a completely different direction, but we just go back to the history. And again, like they talk about in the behind the scenes, right, in the films, like Peter Jackson was very keen on like things looking and feeling historical, and I think we've kind of taken that and run with it in a big way.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Council of
kind of set up, ready to go. It's funny, this is a funny place because like probably technically they wouldn't have the chairs set up like this 12 years in advance. but we have this here so that people know it's the place, right? Because otherwise they'd be walking around going, "Where's the council?" Like, you know. So it's one of those things that we have to do. But
Oh, that's awesome.
But Rivendell's great. And yeah, at some point, eventually, we will have some very big mountains off there in the distance, and we can talk about that towards the end of the stream.
Okay.
About how that's all going to work. Cool. Okay. Let us do a quick. I mean, if it's possible to go through Moria quickly, but let's go to Moria. Let's bring our cameraman there as well. So, this is the West Gate.
Yeah.
There are some mountains. You've obviously skipped through a little bit of the narrative here, but if we just wander over to the to where the doors are and the holly trees there. So the cool thing about this place is that, and this is kind of a recent addition, is that if you are in-game and you change your time to night, so obviously if you look at the current area where the walls are, there's nothing there, it's completely blank. You wouldn't know there's anything there, and then if you change to night, you can see the walls appear.
There we go.
And it's a neat little trick we've got. So yeah, it's kind of correct to the books now that everything is set up in that way, and then you walk up to them, and obviously they slowly open. We're yet to get it to work where you type Melon in chat, and then only then will it open. That is planned, but yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, so this is the kind of beginning of Moria. Now Moria is, I mean, obviously we never do things in half measures, right? And Moria is like the best example of that, where it's just the scale of it is just mind blowing. It is going to, I mean, we're not going to walk through all of it today just because it would take too long. Yeah. But it's safe to say, like, the amount of work is crazy. The Fellowship's Path is, again, only like 2-3% maybe of all of Moria. Like, there's so much in here. And again, it all comes back to that kind of more grounded take that we have on everything, where you'll see some depictions of Moria being like incredibly fantastical in some ways. Obviously, Moria is a fantastical place, but we like to draw it back a little bit and try and make it feel like, what would it feel like if you were actually walking around in an abandoned mine 1,000 years after it's been abandoned. What I'll do is just bring us through to the kind of first like major location they run into, which is of course the crossroads, where Gandalf gets confused as to where they are.
Okay. So how long would it take you to walk through Moria in this game? I
think like half an hour, maybe.
Oh, wow.
If you didn't get lost, if you were just like straight following the path, not stopping, which is unlikely, then yeah, it would be a half an hour. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a lot. Obviously, like there's a lot more to see in there. If we just walk through this side thing here, I think that should hopefully open. Yeah, there we go. This is like the guard room, so the Fellowship spend the night in here, and this is the place where Pippin drops the
drops the pebble.
Is it a stone?
Yeah, it's a stone in the books.
It's a stone down there. Yeah. So it's like in the movies they kind of combine that with Balin's tomb, but in the books it's like a separate room.
Yeah.
And the fun thing here is again expanding onto what Tolkien did. If we drop down the well, which you can of course do, it leads you into this huge area, and there are some guys down here.
I tense up every time I fall in Minecraft.
Yeah. And I'll bring our cameraman back now. Or maybe not. Not sure why he's being teleported away. There we go.
There.
So yeah.
Oh,
we've
got some orcs.
Yeah. Yeah. So down here, presumably, Pippin drops the stone down the well, and these guys wake up from their
Were their heads actually turning toward us?
Yeah, they're animated.
Oh, yeah.
They
okay,
animated.
Cool.
So it's kind of the beginnings of like adding things. We mentioned we're adding farm animals, and we're now beginning to add other things as well. I think which again just brings the world to life a little bit more.
Yeah. Now, is there any plan to eventually have like NPCs that are actually walking around and stuff, or are you kind of more content with these that just kind of set the tone and atmosphere?
So yeah, it's one of those things of like, if we had the capacity or the resource, we'd love to, right? But it's one of those things of like, we obviously have so much to do as it is, and we prioritize the kind of building side of it over the kind of interactive side of it, but we would like to eventually have like more NPCs around, even if they were just there in like a decorative function. We'd love that to be the case. I just want to check, by the way, with our cameraman if the music is coming through in this area or if you're hearing it. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So that's you'll hear some really nice OST stuff. So this is the 21st Hall. So this is kind of when the Fellowship go through Moria. This is the first time they kind of emerge out into one of the really big areas.
So in the films, this is where Gandalf says, "Let's risk a little more light and get that epic."
Absolutely. Yeah.
So cool.
And they spend a night in here as well, like in the corner. And then they wander through here. I think this is the right direction. I haven't got myself turned around. Yeah, we're good. And they wander here. They see a little chink of light and basically come out into Balin's tomb. And we even have the if you come and look at the tomb itself, we've managed to incorporate the
Okay, so what is the beam of light? How is that constructed in Minecraft?
Yeah, magic. I mean, honestly, I don't know exactly. Like, I know I sort of could tell you, but like, I would probably be giving over misinformation if I explained.
Okay.
We'll say it's like secret ArdaCraft source that enables us to do this kind of stuff.
Because it looks cool, and the Minecraft part of my mind is like, wait, how did they do that?
Yeah. Well, if you look at the door here, the door, for example, is similar where it's not actually on axis; it's like at an angle. You see that?
Oh yeah.
So like, it's a similar thing basically to that. It means we can do these things in important locations where it's like we want that bit of extra, like, something to the build.
The extra wow factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Balin's tomb or the Chamber of Mazabul.
Do we have the Book of Mazar Bul laying around somewhere?
Well, it's one of these books. I think
one of the books.
I want to say it was like in a chest, and they found it in there. I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest. But yeah. This is
where it gets hazy between books and films, because you're like,
yeah. Was it there? Yeah. So this is basically in the films. In the films, obviously, there's that extended sequence with the crazy staircase and the balancing on the staircase bit. In the books, Tolkien is a little bit more like down to earth with it. They just go
Yes.
down a corridor that has lots of stairs.
Well, this is
like,
where-
there's no like crazy sequence.
Yeah. This is where, Gandalf catches up to him after his first encounter
Yes.
with the Balrog, saying,
Precisely.
man, I'm wiped out. Something bad's up there.
hmm Well, this is one of the first bits of evidence of Balrog being not like a 50-foot monster, because it can
Right.
fit in the Chamber of Nazgul and it can put its
Yeah.
hand on the door like to open it. So it's like
Yes,
it can't be that
yeah.
big. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the humanoid,
Yes.
depictions of Balrog. So we said we'd get there eventually. The Balrogs having wings, the Balrogs being a giant
Yeah.
monster. Like
Yeah.
we're covering
Start
all
another
the
comment-
debatable things.
Another
Yeah.
comment thread. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the 21st hall. Sorry, the 21st.
Nice.
I misspoke. This is the second hall.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest hall in Moria, at least that we know of. And
Yeah.
it's gigantic. And it has these
Wow.
big pillars shaped like trees. And of course the fiery
The
chasm.
fire.
Yeah. So yeah, Moria. And you can see off there, and actually something I do want to show is the caves. Cave systems
Oh,
that we
yeah.
have in Moria are like unbelievable. It's like we have a guy who's just obsessed. He's very good at doing them. And you
Okay.
can see like
Yeah.
even in the walls here, you can see all of the like structures of like
Yeah.
stalactites and like curtains hanging down from like the calcite. It's like an insane amount of work
Oh my
to do this.
Gosh.
And there's much more to do. But yeah, I don't know if there's like I'm trying to think if there's a good like place I could take us to like show the caves.
Wow.
If you go to the Moria fish farms and then climb out into the big cave, that's a good
Got
area.
it. Yeah,
So this
I'll
is,
find it now.
and then we have the Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the Bridge of Khazad-dûm there, and then that's that gets broken. And obviously,
Fly,
Gandalf
you
then falls a long
fools.
way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've got it. I got where we need to go.
Wow.
So this is just I'll just take us to our place in Moria. So this is obviously off the path, but it gives you a sense of like how much work is going into this. like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Hopefully this comes across okay on YouTube. I know it's not great with like dark scenes, but yeah, the number
Wow.
of just the amount of detail. And then this is just like a place. Like this is not like
Yeah.
anything special or a place that you would necessarily find as you walk through. Obviously orcs hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite different to a
And
normal
you
Minecraft.
said this is like massive. So like, there's places like this and structures like this throughout. You said we are seeing like 2% of the map, basically.
Yes, yeah. Moria is. I cannot emphasize just how much stuff there is, and halls and different delvings and everything. It's crazy. So, yeah, much more.
We
to
saw
see
that
in
little
Minecraft.
waterfall that fed the water into this cave, and that's supported by many little streams that lazily
Yes.
carve through rock, and there are other caverns that are maybe not inhabited. The goal is you can explore any and all of these origins and end up in cool and interesting places, and
Wow.
you can see that
Now,
here.
do you have like, we are on the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. If we fall down and take Gandalf's route with the Balrog, what do we have down there?
So that's not yet complete, but like
Oh,
the plan
okay.
is to have like an extensive cave system down there that like leads you, and that would all have been carved out by the nameless things and stuff.
Yeah.
Over many millennia, presumably. So, yeah.
And then
And this is just an
presumably you could
example
get
of
up,
the cave system.
go up the stairs of Durin.
Yes, eventually. Yeah,
yeah,
that will be the plan.
wow.
Yeah, to fully do it. So Moria is a crazy project, and
Yeah.
like we could be in here for hours, but I don't want to.
Yeah, right.
Take up all of our time with it, but yeah,
I-
it's worth exploring for sure.
I'm curious. Do you ever let the guy who does like all the cave dwelling or the cave creation, like, do you ever let him outside? Like, do we need to check on him emotionally?
Absolutely not.
Like, goodness.
No, he's good. He's happy.
He's okay.
He's like-
Okay.
He's a German guy, so he just likes doing it. He likes the work.
Yeah.
He's having
He spent
fun.
the last 10 years in the caves, but he's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great when we have people who just love doing their
Yeah.
work on here. I mean, that's
Oh,
really
look
what
at
it's all
that.
about. So I'm assuming you know where we are now. This is a fairly famous place in
So
Middle
this
Earth.
is Karas Galathon, I'm guessing.
This is Karen Amroth. So this is
Karen
the hill
Amroth. Right.
Yes. So Karas Galathon is over there. That's
Oh,
the big
okay.
one.
Okay.
It's it's much larger. But yeah, I thought I'd bring us here first because obviously this is it's an important location in Middle Earth, right? This is where Aragorn and Arwen were
Plight
like
their
engaged.
troth,
I think
I believe
that's
is
the one.
Is the term.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And then Frodo, of course, comes. Well, the Fellowship, of course, come here, and
Yeah.
Frodo kind of goes up into the Flet and has this view over Lorien, and eventually, it isn't in the map yet, but eventually, when you are up here, you will be able to see both Karas Galathon and also over the river and in the distance the shadow of Dol Guldur, like over there. So that will be a really cool view. I mean, it already is quite a cool view with the Misty Mountains, but it will get better. It will get better. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll just take us quickly to Karas Galathon now and just go around to the main entrance of the city, of the citadel. I don't know what the best term is, but yeah, sort of hung with lamps.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
And I think this maybe wasn't done when you were here. I actually can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
yeah. But yeah, it's certainly impressive. I mean, this place, basically everything within Karas Galathon that you see was more or less done by hand. Like, this was basically just a green hill, and then everything after that just got done by people over the course of like 2 years. So yeah, it's a crazy build.
So in what ways are you able to, you mentioned, things being done by hand. What's the alternative to that? In what ways are you able to start with a kind of a foundational element or generated thing that you then build upon? Or how does that work?
That's essentially it. So, I mean, we'll show it towards the end of the stream. But there is a program called World Painter, which is basically like a third-party program, and that's where like the map gets done in effect. Okay. So like all of the terrain, like the mountains, the rivers, the hills, like all this stuff that's just like massive, and you could never hope to do like placing block by block, right? A mountain has like hundreds of millions of blocks probably in a mountain range. That all gets done in like a separate program in effect, and that like isn't no work. In fact, it's like been my work for the last 10 years. So like it's a lot of work, but it just makes the whole thing feasible, right? And then that terrain gets loaded in with mountains, with rivers, with trees, right? And then people will then build in that in effect. That's kind of the workflow that we have. And yeah, it does work. It's still a lot of work, but it makes doing a map that, as I said, is 70 times the size of Skyrim possible,
right?
Because otherwise it just wouldn't even be close. This is Galadriel.
Then we really would have to check on your all sanity at that point. Do everything.
Well, even now, it's probably there's an argument to be made. But yeah, if we just fly up here to the top of the flat, we'll get to see where Galadriel and Celeborn hang out. There you go. So that's the main hall, and there's some nice details in here. The pillar on one side, so in front of you, that's the silver pillar. The other side, it's gold. You can see just poking through there.
Okay.
So there's a silver and gold element to it. There's the throne there. So on your left, the thrones of Galadriel and Celeborn, like under the tree branch.
So is the silver and gold? Is that a reference to the two trees of Valinor?
It's the two trees, and it's also their hair, right? Galadriel's hair and Celeborn's.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there's that silver and gold motif that kind of runs through all of Lorien, actually.
Yeah.
The trees themselves, of course, silver bark and gold leaves. But yeah, I do like the elven stuff. It's
gold leaves for now.
True, actually, good point. Yes, so this is another one of those like things where we're able to do things differently to how people picture it.
Okay.
So the Fellowship visit Lorien in January, February time, And the melon leaves, they don't lose their leaves over winter, but they do turn gold in the autumn, and they stay gold until the spring, and then they fall. So they see it gold, and we did it gold because we just went off the books, and then we realized, hang on, the service set in September, so they're probably still green. And so it's going to be interesting. So in a few years' time, when we do come to like have a relook at this area, the leaves will be turning green, and that'll be an interesting like look at Lorien of like half of the year it would be this, but people never ever depict it like that because the kind of gold leaves of Lorien are so like ingrained in people's minds as like that's how it is.
What should be fun is also like I think in the literal description it's like green leaves and like flower laden branches or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly.
Golden flowers. Yeah,
we'll be able to have sort of this like mixed element that also deeply ties into the lore, but also just expresses Middle Earth in this kind of like new way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's super fun.
Wow.
I think if you follow that down from that bridge, at the bottom of there is where Galadriel's mirror is.
Oh,
can be
let's
found.
see.
So like follow the river down rather than the path, and you should get to. There you go. Yeah.
There we go. Oh, that's awesome.
At some point, we should have a thing where you like have a vision. You get.
You're right. If you look at it.
Something. Yeah.
Do you have you built any swan ships?
Yes, actually. Yes. See, look, you're checking our homework here. But yes, we do have that. I'll get there now. It's on the river now. It's on the Silver Lode, which I'll just get to. Let's see if I can find it quick. I know it's in here somewhere. It's along the river. Ah, there we go. Yes. In the best way that can be done.
Oh, there we go.
So yeah, it's in.
Nice.
Galadriel's like swan ship that she like takes, I guess, pleasure cruises on the river. She feels like it. But yeah.
Very cool. Oh, that's fun.
So I'll go ahead now. I think we will skip ahead to the Argonath.
Okay. Oh, I love the Argonath.
Always a fun sight to see. Yeah, it's interesting. We have another one of those. What's the word? Like things where people expect it to be one way and it maybe is another.
Yeah.
So like, even in their current depiction, and they seem to be taking a little while to load in there. Even in their current depiction, I think in the films they are explicit, like they are Elendil and Isildur, and they both have like beards, and I think Elendil has his sword, but in the books they are Isildur and Anarion.
Mm-hmm.
They both have axes.
Yes.
And so that's the kind of first difference. And also the other thing is that they we've done them beardless because we get told in Nature of
Middle Earth,
that all the Númenorians, well, all the royal Númenorians certainly didn't have beards because of that elven strain. So that's the first thing. The other thing, which is interesting, and that we, again, when we kind of rework or retouch areas as time goes on with the Argonath, basically there's a good argument to be made that they weren't as big as we see them in the films and as we see them here. Mm-hmm. For a few reasons. Firstly, like, Frodo doesn't see them until they're pretty close, and then like also we have like a depiction that Pauline Baines did of them where they're not very big. Well, they're not very big. They're still probably like 100 feet tall, but like it's not like it's not as titanic as we see. So basically, we'll probably at some point rework it to be a little bit more in line with that. And the other, at least for us as well, at the moment you can see these from Minas Tirith, which is a bit stupid. Like it's a bit crazy. Like on our map, you can like look north. It's like, oh, there's the Argonath, like poking their heads up. So
it's pretty big. Yeah.
We want to like reduce that a little bit, but not to say that the current versions aren't like very nice.
I was gonna say it's pretty cool when they're huge. What's the current height of them right now? Do you know?
I want to say that they're like 120 meters tall, so that's probably like what's that, like 400 feet, something like that. Yeah. So this is Sangibir, by the way, the sort of rapids on the Anduin there. But yeah, you can see that they dominate the skyline at the moment a little bit. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, but but yeah, no, I mean, this whole area, the Annúminas stuff is cool, and
So at some point around here is where Legolas shoots the fell beast.
Correct, yeah. Which is, I've always thought is a bit crazy that, like, because Peter Jackson has Legolas do all kinds of stuff, and it's like, the really cool canonical thing that he does.
The tailor-made thing for him to shoot down a fell beast in the dark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, that gets cut, but they have him kill a Dollyphant instead, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I always thought that was funny. But yeah, it is around here. And yeah, you get a feeling for, like, again, the ability, our ability to see so far now is...
Yeah.
And those are the White Mountains in the background there. So that's all of Rohan in the distance there. And those are the White Mountains, so yeah. It's, yeah. And what you're looking over there, like, between here and, like, the White Mountains is, like, you could fit the Skyrim map into that, like, quite happily.
That area. Wow.
Yeah,
probably a couple times, if I had to guess.
Probably a couple times, yeah. I mean, the scale is...
that is wild.
Cool.
Makes you see curvature of the Earth a little bit there.
Yeah.
I think, folks who, maybe weren't familiar with the work you guys do, you can see why you guys were nominated for a Tolkien Society Award. Like, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I know I've said it before, like, we were in this 4 years ago, right? But, like, it's still, every time, I look in this, like, it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we'll do now is you can just see the Undeeps, and you can see back towards Lorien in that direction, and the Brownlands and all that stuff. You can actually see one of the forts that Kirion built. Little circle there to the left of the river. That's one of the ruins of the defenses along the Anduin that was set up.
The Undeeps, which the Easterlings used a lot to cause trouble for Rohan.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and the great thing about this other thing about being able to see this far is that we can really show that we're not lying about all the stuff. We have done it. Like, it's all there. Like, and it's all in one map.
Yeah.
Let's just skip ahead to Isengard now. I think just quickly.
Yeah. Like we said, if you're tuning in later on this, like, we're skipping around a lot, but you can actually walk through all this. We just, we don't have 20 hours to do a single recording here.
Sadly, do another, like, a charity live stream.
So we're seeing 3016. You said was the year, is that right? Or no, 3006.
3006. Yeah. So it's 12 years before the War of the Ring, and so
we're seeing Isengard. Yeah, we're seeing a much more, outwardly looking, nice Isengard.
And I think outwardly being key, because under the ground we actually have the beginnings of, like, Saruman's, like, army is being equipped, shall we say? There's stuff happening. He is very much not a good guy at this time,
right?
But as you said, outwardly it's kind of, he's keeping it secret. So all of these gardens, all of this stuff, like all of the trees that have been growing here. I mean, obviously, like, Treebeard gets angry about Fangorn being destroyed, and obviously that's incredibly, like, sad, but also, like, I always think with these gardens that we make, like, imagine that all just gets wiped out. Like, there's probably generations of gardeners who, like, worked on these places, like, around the tower, and it's just, like, wiped out in, like, a month or whatever. And then all the trees, of course, and within the Ring of Isengard as well, that get destroyed. But Isengard is one of our cooler locations.
Yeah,
and I think I'll just
really cool.
I'll just quickly bring us to one of those secretive
locations,
entrances.
I love we get the Ring of Isengard. You get a sense for how much of a protected fortress Isengard is, with that ring around Orthanc.
Something to mention here as well, and we'll get to this towards the end of the stream, is in when we rework the mountains, as we will. So the mountains currently are there, and they're like, okay. They will be like twice the height in the future that they are now. Wow. So you've got, like, the Misty Mountains as they are currently. They were done years ago now. The new version that we have of them is, like, much larger, and Isengard in the new version feels a lot more like it's in a valley, rather than next to the mountains. It really is enclosed. And and that's going to be an exciting thing in the future as well.
Because right now it kind of feels like Orthanc is the same height roughly as the mountains.
Yes, exactly. And that was just a limitation of like when we at the time that was Minecraft's height limit. Now we can do much more. So like there will be some really in particular Methydras will be a really enormous mountain next to Isengard, and it makes it feel much smaller, which is great.
So what you mentioned the height thing. What other things have changed over the years, and especially the last 4 years since we last talked?
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I was just curious.
I was going to say, the new trees are a big thing. So I've brought you down into the Ring of Isengard now. So you may have seen some of the older trees as we were walking around, and they were just very blocky in effect, right? They were made out of Minecraft blocks because that was all that was available to us at the time. These days, as you can see, we have a lot more options when it comes to trees, and we can model out these really complex branch structures and canopies and stuff that just were not possible in the old days. And that's one of the big changes that we've had of really like brought the whole world to the next level. And towards the end of the stream, we will be showing you like where all of these trees are being built, how they're being organized. Like it's a whole like project which on its own is like an incredible thing that's being done, and it's just like in support of the map. But yeah, trees, I would say trees and the new height limit are the two things that have really prompted the kind of rework of the terrain that's going on in the background. But on top of that, as you see, as we'll go into Gondor and so on, like there's been a lot of work in terms of like new textures that our guys add and models and just making the world come to life in that way. Like adding those orcs, for example, are a good example in Moria, right? Like that's something that we didn't have last time. So there's a lot of like texture and mod development that goes on in the background that really helps to support what we're doing. And actually, I will say like the Patreon that we have and the money that we take in from that entirely goes towards supporting like those kinds of efforts. So
awesome.
So yeah, that's why we have that set up.
And I don't recall anyway that there were animals last time. I think is that a new thing here in the last years?
That is that's a fairly new thing that we've started to do.
I half expected Bill the Pony just to be like a statue just standing there, and then when he like started turning his head toward me, like there's a magic to that where it's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely an immersive thing to have those things in motion and like the orcs turning their heads and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, here
and this
we go.
is so here we are at Edoras. Again, I think this was maybe finished the last time you were here, but
I think we did look at Edoras.
So again, a really huge project, loads and loads of houses. Again, quite a bit bigger than the film version. It's probably fair to say. Like, obviously, they were limited in what they could do, because they were building it on location and everything. But yeah, this place is pretty enormous. And I think as we get up, and maybe as we fly up towards Medusel, you'll get a sense of how this sits within the landscape. So off there in the distance is the Starcorn in the far distance there. So the great mountain at the head of the Vale of Dunharrow, and then the mountain kind of behind Medusel now is the Dwimmelberg, the mountain of the dead. So you have that big valley behind Edoras and the White Mountains. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We think it's cool.
It's definitely cool. Wow.
And then beyond, obviously, so you got Edoras, which is this huge settlement, but beyond it, of course, you have all of the villages of Rohan, all of the farms, which was a big part that was missing from the films. So, all of the stuff that would be needed to support this massive kingdom, that's all out there.
Aldberg and all those places.
Yeah, absolutely, Aldberg but lots and lots of like places that we've had to add ourselves. That would be there, right? It's like you would have more villages than Tolkien specifically names, but we just have to like kind of riff off what he gives us in that respect. And we give them all names in Old English, of course, because that's what he would have wanted.
So
yeah.
Now, what about the interior? At some point, we should look at the interior of the Golden Hall, I think.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's can't be missed. I'll bring our camera. I think our cameraman has managed to get himself
we're exploring. We're exploring.
We're just out in the sticks. Yeah, where all the peasants are living. But let's come back up to the Golden Hall. Here we are. So yeah, we'll wander our way in. And yeah, definitely one of the cooler like interiors on the map. All the smoke rising. And I think in here, just trying to think if I can find it. Oh yeah, here we go. So this is specifically called out in the text. Is over here. There is the tapestry with Eol the Young.
Yeah.
On it, and I think if you get the I can't remember what exact timing and angle it is, but basically you can get the sun to like shine through and like land on the tapestry as it does in the book. It's like a specific but we made sure that would work. You know, it's that kind of like
now that's
attention to detail.
That's a Lotro image, isn't it? I think.
Correct. Yeah. So we did take those tapestries from Lord of the Rings Online. Because
that's one of my favorite things in Lotro is like the tapestries in Edoras are really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things of like, this art exists and is out there, and we want to kind of showcase that, and kind of have these elements of all these different artists who over the years have worked on Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so cool.
It's a cool aspect of the project.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then it looked like, the other ones behind the tapestry of Eorl. It looked like there was. I thought I might have recognized one of them, but I can't put my finger. The one on the right there.
Oh yeah, is that Scatha the Worm?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll be Scatha. I would have thought, right?
Yeah.
What's the guy's name who kills Scatha?
Is it Fram?
It might be. Yes, that sounds right to me. Yeah, Fram. And then over here you have like.
The
Oath of
Helm
Kieran and Eol. You have Helm. Yeah. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
super
cool.
Nice. Have those little details in the hall.
Love it.
Speaking of Helm, let's go to that place. That place.
Yeah. Helm's Deep.
Give his name to. Cool. So yeah, some of the textures on it looking a little worse for wear, so there needs to be a bit of an update, but you get a feeling, right?
Yeah.
And Helm's Deep's fun. It's we haven't started the Glittering Caves yet, so
okay.
Work is just starting on those right now. But Helm's Deep itself is like done, and yeah, it's like again we have the design from the book rather than the movie. So in the movie, it's kind of like pushed up against the cliff,
Right.
And again in the book, it's more of a like it's like its own fortress that's like fully like enclosed by walls. And that again, it's kind of a little step or difference from the from the movies, but again, Helm's Deep's only one of those places where. So again,
I was just gonna say this is one of those locations where I think the approach is obvious, where it is book inspired rather than movie, because Helm's Deep is one of those that has a very distinct design in the films, and I just thought this was a good part to point out that you guys are taking your inspiration directly from the books for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Helm's Deep's an interesting one because in terms of like thinking about how we actually approach the build and the world, because we built Helm's Deep when we were doing Rohan and we hadn't started Gondor yet, right? But but obviously Helm's Deep, or the Hornburg, I should say, to give it a proper name, was not built by the Rohirrim. It was built by the Númenóreans like way ago.
Yeah.
And we hadn't yet figured out really what Númenórean architecture should look like. So there will come a point when we revisit this place with all of our kind of Gondor expertise, so that when you go from here to, let's say, Minas Tirith or Pelargit, you can realize like, oh, it was built by the same people. You get those same like aspects to it. So it looks great right now. Like, it's a great build. I'm not by no means ashamed of it, but it's one of these things of like, we will have to retouch it at some point to bring it in line with our other stuff, and that's like an interesting development piece, I suppose.
I like how we can see Isengard there.
Yeah, so that's another so that's another one of those things that will get fixed when we have the new terrain, because Isengard will be much more in a valley, and you won't be able to see it, which is great. So one of those things will get fixed. Something I quickly wanted to show you, we saw Helm punching that guy.
Freka.
It was Freka. Yeah, we saw him on the tapestry, and actually what we can go and have a look at now is where Freka came from, the West March of Rohan.
Yeah.
And that is actually one of our newer areas. So it's like we've been working on this much more recently, and it'll be cool to kind of get a feeling of what that all looks like. So this is just a village in the West March. And the interesting thing, of course, about the West March is that these people who lived here were of kind of mixed Rohirric and Dunlending descent, right? So, we have to reflect that to some degree in the architecture, and there'll be some places that are more Rohirric leaning, some places that are more Dunlending leaning. And in the end, I think during the course of the books, the people here actually ended up siding with Saruman and sent forces to Helm's Deep against Theoden. So they're definitely not the most loyal subjects of the king. But yeah, it's cool to get a feeling for like how this all looks. And again, this place is just a bit more updated basically than what we were just looking at.
Now, I think we caught in the background some glimpses of how the sausage is made here. So if we turn around, I think it would be cool to show. Like, so we had some stuff like up in the sky, that big blue. Like, what's the big blue? That thing. What's that up in the sky?
So will that be where trees are being stored? I think. That's no longer there actually, but that was there, so that's why it's being stored in a cached way. But yeah, that's a good example, and you can see something floating over the settlement over there. You can see other things that are floating around, and that's basically, as you say, like how the sausage is made. Like we are working on this like actively, and therefore, when we are working on something and we either need it as a reference or we need to save it for a different thing, or there's lots of different reasons you might do it. Basically, things get pasted up in the air, and you can see here. We have farmland that's being actively worked on. So on one side, it's much more finished. On the other side, it's just being planned out where the furrows are going to be in the future. You can see that the road's a little bit in progress. You can see that wall isn't quite finished. It's just a marker right now. So yeah, this is a great example of like a work in progress region of like how it all comes together from like nothing at all, or not nothing at all, but just like base terrain to the kind of, what you get in the end.
And the little neon colored blocks, what are those?
Those are like basically just markers, so you can see that they're like little exclamation marks you see.
Yes.
And that's how we just make sure that people know. There'll be a sign on it probably that will say, you need to do this here, you need to do that here. Whatever it is. Like it's little marks for our builders as they go.
Yeah.
There you go, look. So that's just like, this needs to be done, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's cool, and it is quite cool to get an insight into like how we actually.
No, I love this. Yeah, this is
because probably for some people it's like you see this and it's like you've seen normal Minecraft and then you see like a finished build on ArdaCraft and it's like, how does this even like begin?
Right? Yeah.
Like, how do you even start?
Yeah, I'm kind of imagining like, okay, setting the first block. It's like. It's just daunting. Like what do we do? Oh, there's a bird nest in the tree. That's awesome.
Well, step one you see, Matt, is to write 15 different Google documents, and only then can you start placing the first block. See, there's a little bird. But yeah. I mean, there's so much that goes that even before we start in game, before we get to this point.
Oh wow.
Little hawk flying up there. Yeah. No, it's great. I love touches like that. And then to have the mountains in the background, I mean, how fantastic to have the White Mountains just there. I mean, that was just, I mean, really, it still blows my mind to this day to like, you just get that view. I don't know. It's crazy to me. And you can imagine just like how much this adds versus like seeing only, you probably in the old days, you would have only been able to see like the town, but that's it, and having all of this is just like so much more. So, it's cool stuff.
That's awesome.
It's cool stuff. But yeah, West March are very cool. Will be done at some point. It's being worked on very hard by some very talented people. But yeah, okay, so speaking of like, we've obviously looked at this work in progress in-game area.
Yeah.
Now, as we get towards the end of things, I'd like to get to Gondor. People love Gondor. it is work in progress. Before, so I think in the last stream we had not started it at all.
I don't think you did. Yeah.
So no. So this is all going to be new stuff, and it's. Yeah, I mean, people have their preferences. People like different things on the server. I am definitely a big Gondor fan. I really, really enjoy the kind of Mediterranean aesthetic that we're giving it.
Yeah.
Let's get in. So here we are in Anorien. So Anorien is the kind of northernmost realm of Gondor, fiefdom of Gondor that still is controlled and lived in by Gondorians towards the end of the Third Age. So obviously, in the past, they had many more regions. They had all of Rohan, all that stuff. And now these days, this is the kind of as far north as it gets. And this is the region where, for example, the beacons are found. This is the region that adjoins Minas Tirith. The Anduin flows around it. And where we are now is the kind of north end of Anorien that sort of gets close to, or sort of borders the Anduin.
Yeah.
You can see there in the east the mountains of Mordor on the horizon, so we're pretty close to Mordor as well.
Yeah.
And Anorien is kind of really on the front lines in some way of the War of the Ring. The armies of Mordor will tear through here in about 12 years' time. But we've come to this place which we've called Lisklorn, which means, I think, harbour at the reeds. So it's an entirely kind of ArdaCraft created town in Gondor. But again, it's like one of those things of these towns would exist, these places would exist, therefore we have to detail them out and show them. And it helps to flesh the world out and make it feel like a real place.
So Anorien, for those curious, this is borders Rohan. So like this would be the lands that the Rohirrim pass through on their way to Minas Tirith.
Correct.
To show up there, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is, and Anorien is an interesting one because it ends up being the kind of first town you would come to if you were coming down the Anduin from the north. And so we know, for example, after the Kinstrife, that Eldacar brought a lot of Northmen with him out of the north, and they kind of settled in Anorien. So the people here were actually a mix of kind of native Gondorians, shall we say, and there'd be quite a lot of Northman blood. And I think even to this day, you would still get the occasional trader. I mean, Boromir mentions this, that the occasional trader would come down from the north, down the Anduin, and would presumably, in our version of Middle-earth, end up here in this town. But you can see as we go through it, this is very, very different to where we just were. This is not the kind of Anglo-Saxon, Celtic-inspired Rohan stuff. This is very, very, very much Mediterranean, so a mix of Mediterranean influences, right? So Roman, Byzantine, Greek, even some elements of Egyptian architecture go into this. And there has been a lot of work put into making this authentic to those sorts of cultures.
Something I sort of want to bring up as we're going through here, like Jack has been talking, of course, about all these like layers of history and inspirations we use. Namely, Gondor is really important and difficult for us to show, right? And a lot of the progress we've been making over the last 4 years is not just the projects you see, of course, which take a lot of time, but it's modeling this culture's architecture through history, right? So every building in this town, the builders of it, and eventually we'll have a tool to let guests explore this kind of knowledge, we can tell you the period it's from, the architectural styles it tries to matches. There are layers of stonework, and certain types and size of blocks and colors indicate different periods of history, and it exists for every single structure we can see here. So the walls, for example, were built far after the site of the main center of the town there on the left, and we sort of hope to show that in some details. And as we establish Gondor through its entire range, it's a huge area, we'll keep going. And every detail is very specific, architecturally placed, and sort of we have documents that define its context and the materials and where they come from and why they're there. And that ends up being a lot of the work outside of course, placing the blocks that we see around us.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you're talking about, having to revisit Helm's Deep after coming up with the look for Gondor. I'm sure there's, like, on the front end, it's not like you can just start building. Like, you've got to design the textures and, the aesthetics for all this stuff before you even start building these.
Yes, massive part of it, and we do a lot of the texture work, like on our own end. And there are people who do that alongside building in many cases. So yeah, as you say, there's so much that goes into it before the first block is even placed in a location like this. I've mentioned maybe in the past the Gondor Rural Guide. So all of the fields that you see and all of the animals that are being kept and the structures that are kind of being put in place for the production of food, all of that has been researched. Like we've read first what do you call it? Primary sources like Roman sources on agriculture. And Greek sources on agriculture, and then
if we could just get an above shot to see the fields here, that'd be good.
Yeah, just to show the fields, I think would be cool. All of the archaeology and stuff that goes into it. We have to think about the time of year that we're in, and so what would the fields look like at this time of year? We're in September, so this far south, we're talking about post-harvest in most cases. So a lot you see the I think is that a flax field there, Sean?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, so that's flax that have been bundled up and left to dry in the field. A lot of these kind of empty-looking fields have been harvested already, and that harvest has been taken in and threshed and put away into storage. All of this stuff has to be thought about, and we have to think about crop rotation, and we have to think about all of that stuff. It's crazy, and I just it sounds a little arrogant to say no one else is doing this for Middle Earth. No one else. Obviously Lord of the Rings Online. Obviously they have fields and stuff, but I no, absolutely zero shade to them because they're doing a different thing. But I don't think they're doing crop rotation or threshing floors as a priority. I think they're thinking about quests or whatever. But yeah.
Well, it's cool. Like you said, it's different approaches, and both of them are unique in their own way. It's crazy, and it's amazing that there's two just mind-bogglingly huge and amazing Middle Earth projects like this and Lotro. It feels like we're a little spoiled as fans to have these two projects. I'm looking forward to obviously more video games to come from Middle Earth, but the fact that we have two of these ginormous places to play in is pretty awesome.
I was going to call out that mountain that we were just looking at in the background there is Mindolluin. So that's the final mountain of the Misty. And you can see Minas Tirith's outline.
Oh, yeah, we can see Minas Tirith. Yeah, we definitely need to make our way there.
We'll get over to it. We'll make our way there for sure, yeah. I just wanted to bring out a couple more of the settlements in Anorien and kind of what, just kind of how we're filling out this architecture. Because, there's I think the thing to emphasize about ArdaCraft is we don't rush to the big locations. We love doing Minas Tirith and Helm's Deep and stuff, but we're not rushing to it because we want to do them right. And in order to do them right, the best way to do them right is to fill out the small places first and build up to it. So I'll just bring us here to a random fort, for example, that's in the countryside of Anorien. Again, just a small place, nothing particularly special, but again, just it's sitting over a village, and the village has farms around it, and there's going to be a manor nearby that's going to be built. And so again, it's just this kind of authentic feeling countryside, inspired from Italy and Greece and all these sorts of places, and trying to make that just feel like a normal place where people would live and work and just exist in Middle Earth, because obviously most people in Middle Earth are not out having grand adventures with eagles and balrogs and wizards, right? Most of them are just peasants. They live in the countryside and they work to produce their food, and that's the life that they live,
Right.
So it's like that. That's what we're trying to show about it, is that it's this grand, fantastic world, but Tolkien was very, very keen to kind of give it this historical feeling right throughout, and I think that's what we're trying to do as well.
Very cool.
Yeah. This is just a place. And I think if I'll skip over to another town that is right next to Carandros. So the fort on the River Anduin.
Oh, cool.
That is described. I think they never visit it directly in the books, but Aragorn sends a detachment of guys when he's going north to the Black Gate to go and retake Carandros. So it's clearly an important, it's a big river crossing, right? So it's very important. But I will bring our camera guy over here. So this is the local town, basically. So Carandros is an island in the river, and then just to the west of it, on the kind of Gondor side of the bank, is this town, and there is the fort over there, which is still in progress, but that's kind of the location of it on the Anduin, if you see.
Nice.
And this is a place that would obviously have like a military garrison. There would be people here to support that garrison, and so you would get, often in Roman times, you would get like a fort that would be set up, but then you would get naturally just a town that would develop next to it by virtue of needing to support the kind of military component.
And interestingly, in our context, Caandros is actually newer than this town. So we sort of place like the one of the great things about some of the sources we pull for, especially like late Roman or like Byzantine times, is there's sort of this process of what's called like ruralization, where we go from these societies that can support very deep and like huge cities to, over time, as the population dwindles, they end up more ruralized, and towns sort of eat themselves into being made up of fields and gardens and pasture lands. And that's sort of what we hope to show here. So, this is on the border. This is an area that's very much like at risk and under attack, and would have been depopulated as Mordor's influence grew. And so we end up with this town.
I'm laughing at the goat in the tree. That was just fantastic.
Yeah. It's one of our favorite like little bits. Yeah. But yeah, go on, Sean.
Basically, we just get to show like there's very rich history in all of these towns that we end up, hoping to be able to get to people. And the hope is really that, Gondor's super old, and to even get a fraction of that history off like successfully in our project is sort of like that's the struggle. That's the goal.
Yeah.
You can see actually if you fly up above this town, you can see that like how big the walls are, but like how much of it is now just empty or like is being used as fields. So like there would have been, obviously at one time this would have been a really densely populated town.
Yeah.
But over time, the use changes. There's fewer people. They pull down houses, and it becomes fields. And actually, that is something that we're going to show in Osgiliath as well. So this is almost like a rehearsal for the kind of stuff that we'll be doing on Osgiliath, because Osgiliath like didn't all fall at one time. It had a very slow kind of decline and depopulation over like centuries. So there will be areas of the walls within Osgiliath that like have very few apparent ruins in them, and that's because the people would deliberately pick apart the buildings, use the stone for other things, and then like start farming on that land. And we saw that happen in Rome, for example. Like that massively happened. Rome went from a city of 1 million people to like I think like 20, 30,000 or something. So like you can imagine what that does to to a town and and to the so we have obviously some big ruins left today, but so much of Rome was just lost to that kind of process, and Osgiliath would be similar for sure. But yeah.
Now what's the red path here that we're seeing? I'm guessing that's like
the edge
a placeholder kind of thing. Oh, okay.
That's the wall of Osgiliath, so you can see how enormous Osgiliath is going to be. You can see we haven't really started it, obviously, but there is a lot, and there obviously is Mordor kind of ominously on the horizon, waiting for us at some point. But yeah, I'll what I want to quickly show is just the is Amondine, so one of the first beacons, not complete at all, but just a cool place to go and see, and then we'll go to Minas Tirith. Cool. So Amondine, it is specifically called out in the narrative as being like the first of the great beacons going north.
Yeah.
The kind of warning system for Anorien. And below it, you may have just seen we have like a little village, so that would again spring up around the fact that like the stewards would need horses to be kept here and messengers to be kept here. So therefore, you would likely get a little village that would spring up around this place. Amondine itself is like a fortified beacon that's called out in the text as well. So like it's you can see some walls around it and stuff, as a little like defensive strong point. And it's interesting actually because in the text. We know that the armies of Mordor actually came here to block the Rohirrim from advancing. Obviously, the Rohirrim went around the other side of Amondine and got around and managed to get to Minas Tirith. But presumably, this village does not have such a good ending. And probably gets burned in about 12 years' time. But we'd imagine that the people of this town would go up into Amondine, like the fort, right, and would wait out the siege from there.
Now,
but yeah,
you mentioned...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was finished.
Oh, so you mentioned, the Rohirrim getting around. They obviously do that going through the Druidan Forest. Have you guys done anything special for the Druidan Forest, or is that just kind of a wooded area right now?
That's a wooded area right now. Yeah, like we will want to be doing like the huts of the Druidane in there at some point. That 100% will be a project. But yeah, right now it's just a forest. But yeah, that will be a super cool like project to do, the like Stonewain Valley, to do the the huts of the Druidane and all that stuff. I mean, really cool. But yeah, has not yet been started. So we are just focusing on Gondor at the moment in that respect. Cool. But yeah, I quickly would like to take you, otherwise the builders will kill me, just to an aqueduct in the field again, as a sense of like the decline of Gondor, I'll put it that way. So this place is really cool. This aqueduct would at one point have supplied Osgiliath with water. So it comes from the mountains, runs across the plains of Anorien, and would eventually have reached the city of Osgiliath.
Yeah.
There is not much need for water in Osgiliath these days.
Right.
So it has been left to rot and to fall to bits. But you can see that the people of Gondor are still farming around the remnants of the old aqueduct. Yeah. So and again, very, very inspired by like the stuff that you get around Rome.
Yes.
Even these days. So yeah, you can really see that strong influence.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, Gondor is just, I mean, I love Gondor for the reason of like, it's chock full of ruins, but there's still those little signs of life.
Yeah.
Here and there.
So
what we'll do is we'll fly.
The green, the bright green blocks, that are obviously placeholders of some kind. What are those kind of standing in for?
Yeah. So those are just standing in for like vegetation and trees, basically. So you can see that the fields have been planned out, and this is purely just like, okay, this is where we roughly want there to be like bushes, trees, and stuff marking the edge of the fields. But this is again, like a work in progress area.
Oh, I love it. Then, we got the Ramas Ekor.
Yeah, immediately identified. Nice. It's good that you knew. Ramas is like beginning, so you can see the edge of that. Again, you can see that. So the cool thing to call out about this is you see how there's those arches in it? That was an aqueduct at one point supplying Osgiliath. So they turned the north portion of, in our minds anyway, because this is something we've made up. They turned the north, they turned the north portion of the Ramas Ekor was once an aqueduct, but they've just used that as like an efficient way of kind of blocking
repurposing. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So at a certain point, like the aqueduct would split off from the line of where the Ramas Ekor is. You can, if you follow it along, you can see that way. Basically, you can see it here actually, just like where, just if you turn around, So just here, you can see like this is where the aqueduct would have continued off, towards the city, and then like the wall goes in a different direction. But yeah, it's cool little details like that.
I love that. This gives you a sense how big the Ramas Ekor was, like seeing it in the context of like how far away it is from the city and the farmland. Obviously, that's a big thing. Like you said, it gets left out of the movies, but in the books, there's farmland that on the fields of Pelennor. It's not just like an open field.
The Ramas is funny actually because it gets left in the movies in dialogue. Because when Théoden says to his guys, take the company right after you pass the wall, he's talking about the Ramas Ekor. But then but what wall are you talking about? Because there's nothing there. But it's because they've just lifted it from the books, right? So the Ramas survives only in dialogue, which I always thought was kind of funny. But yeah, here we are. Minas Tirith.
We've got the book accurate black outer wall of Minas Tirith.
Absolutely. I mean, we would never do it any differently.
Yeah.
Don't even.
So people, if you're wondering why it's black, that's how it is in the books.
Yeah.
Just like we see Orthanc, That's
yes. Yeah.
Really cool black wall.
So here we have the main court. I mean, this is a statue of Anarion. Obviously, this was his place. This was his citadel that he founded 3,000 years ago, and so he's still kind of venerated within the city.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll just take us on a little walking tour through what exists in Minas Tirith right now. I mean, obviously, there's still so much more to do here.
I was going to ask, what percent completion do you feel like Minas Tirith is at right now?
Genuinely, like 15%, 10, 15. And the reason for that is like kind of what we were talking about earlier, which is that like we have been, not only have we been working on Gondor, but we've been like developing it. And we feel like, and this is probably famous last words, we feel like we've reached a point now where we really get it and can like start to like put into production all of the research and work and like concepts and like architectural styles, you know?
Yeah.
We feel like that can be put into perspective now. And if we fly up, we can see just like how that's beginning to come into place. So you can see the walls are being planned out. You can see like on the second level, you can see more houses are being planned out. But it is like incredibly complex to do this because not only have you got all of those layers of architecture and history that we were talking about, but you have to do it on concentric circles in Minecraft. So like every building is like on an angle basically, and that just makes everything more complex to do in like
I didn't even think about the circles element. Yeah. Oh, that's a pain.
Yeah. It's like Tolkien gave us the most difficult thing we could possibly do. But yeah, it's a challenge, but at the same time, this will be like the crown jewel of the server when it's done. You know, like this will be the thing that like we'll want to see more than anywhere else, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's kind of crazy, right? Because you go down into these streets and you see all of like the little details, you know, the pots on the ground and the worn, weathered walls, and you go into the interiors of these places, and like these are all going to be like finished and worked on, and you can see that like a fair amount of it's been done. And then you zoom out to the city level, and you're like, you just imagine the amount of work it takes for everything to be detailed in this way. It's kind of mind blowing, really.
Wow.
But yeah.
Now, have you done like the throne room and everything yet, or is that?
Yeah, I was going to say let's fly out to the Citadel
cool.
and have a look. Yeah, let's do it. Because that does exist in a form. Whether or not that form remains until the end is another question entirely. I just want to call out the prow here. We have a geologist on our team, and he detailed this granite prow. Let that load in. Which it's not right now. Give it a second.
There it goes. There we go.
Yeah, so like, just the work to do this.
Something kind of we can point out here, right, is like, so in our creation of our map, which we'll talk about later, we can determine the like local geology and like all the plants of an area. So we could feasibly give you a reason for why, you know, this limestone hill that Minas Tirith sits on has this granite form that sticks out as the prow and its relation to the mountains around it. And so not only are you just like, we're not like just saying like, well, Tolkien put a prow, so we did. We get to say, well, here's why it is here based on, you know, the model of the lands we've made.
Oh, here we have the white tree.
Yeah, Court of the Fountain. And again, speaking of fountains, we have a guy who worked out the entire like water system of Minas Tirith and like how the fountain is powered. Because it's a gravity power. Because the water comes from high up on Mindolluin and then goes down and then comes back up into the Citadel. But because of the pressure difference, that's how the fountain works. That's all been figured out. There's a massive what's it called? Why am I blank? Cistern underneath the Citadel. So if you go down underneath, if the cameraman just dips down underneath, we can prove that exists. If you no-clip down below the Citadel, we can show that.
Oh my gosh!
So there's the pipe system that exists, and then underneath you have this massive water reservoir. So, and then eventually Minas Tirith will have a full like sewer and water system, because of course it would. You know? These are civilized people. You know, they're not going to be. They're not using buckets.
No.
So
of course not.
Yeah.
That is all being awesome. Done. Oh my word.
Yeah. Let's walk into the throne room, I guess.
Throne room, yeah.
And you'll see that the throne in here. Obviously, it's all taken from Tolkien's descriptions, but the throne is very much inspired by the one on the cover of Return of the King. See that? So like the circle and the sort of wings, and then the tree behind it. It's all very much like taken from that illustration, and then obviously the steward's chair.
Yeah.
In front of the throne. But yeah, there's a lot of detail in here, and you can tell that this is it's quite a different place to Meduseld, you know, which is a bit sort of rough and ready and a bit, you know, rustic. This is quite different. Yeah. No, and you can see the great thing I love about the throne is the wave motifs on it. So like the reference to Numenor and the control of the sea and that connection to the sea that obviously they all had.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's an element in here as well. I mean, we certainly partially inspired by the movies, but there's a fairly there's a bit more color in here. For example, Tolkien calls out the ceiling as being like gold leaf and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's just finish up here by going into Merithron, so the Hall of Feasts. So if you exit the citadels, we'll turn left as you come out, and then we'll go into the Hall of Feasts. And then what I want to quickly show is just the new map that's being worked on, so the terrain that's being worked on. And then we will switch over to what the Mountains of Angmar will look like in that.
Oh, cool!
In that new map. So yeah, Hall of Feasts, Minas Tirith. You can see much more to be done in Minas Tirith and in Gondor generally. We haven't even touched Pelargia and Dol Amroth and the regions to the south.
That's what I was wondering how far you guys had gone.
Yeah. So it's basically just Anorien at the moment, and then we plan to kind of push on southwards, hopefully. Going into kind of next year.
And then you mentioned like the mountains of Mordor, but you guys haven't actually built like any. You're not working on Barad-dûr yet or Minas Morgul or anything like that, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So like they're off there in the distance, as I said, kind of menacingly reminding us of the fact that we will have to do Mordor at some point. But currently there's nothing there. It's purely just like these range of mountains. But yeah, the focus very much is on Gondor, Moria, and on the currently the West March of Rohan that we visited earlier. But what I want to do now is quickly show you the kind of the master map in effect. So we've been talking throughout the stream about how our process, how we actually work on doing all of this stuff in a kind of unified way, and how we put all of the terrain to use. And just give me a sec, I will quickly bring up the kind of full map of Middle Earth that I've been working on, and you can kind of get a sense of how all of these areas kind of fit together. Takes a little moment to load because of the size of it, obviously.
I was curious, you mentioned earlier, you've got Dunharrow. Have you done anything with the mountain, like in the interior where like the Army of the Dead would be or anything like that?
So no, we haven't got to that point yet. So so like the Glittering Caves, all of that stuff, like that's kind of off to one side for us at the moment. Like we're kind of focusing on like very strongly on like, let's get into Gondor, let's get into like all these, all this area. But yeah, at some point, 100%, like Paths of the Dead. At some point,
you'll put your Delver guy. You'll switch him from one mountain to another. And be like, just keep.
We won't ever let him above ground. I think that's kind of the main aim. Keep him down there for as long as possible. Okay, let me just get my map sorted for you, and I will hopefully be able to stream in just a second. Let's see. Hi guys, so we're just recording this in post because I wasn't able to get this working when we were recording with Matt, but I just wanted to show you guys the terrain creation software that we use to make Middle-earth and to give you a sense of the scale of this map. So this is where we left off. This is outside Minas Tirith. You can see this is a kind of blank version of Minas Tirith in effect. But we have Mount Mindolluin behind it. We have the Pelennor Fields in front of it. This is where Osgiliath is going to be. This is all the kind of region of Anorien, so this region of Gondor that we've started with and that we've been putting a lot of work and time into to make sure it's right before we go into the rest of Gondor. But the rest of Gondor goes down south of Minas Tirith in effect, and to the west of it as well. So this is Pelargia, the mouths of the Anduin down here. You have Lynn here, you have Belfalas and Dol Amroth over here, Morthond and the Pinath Gelin and Amphalas and all these regions. So lots of different feasts of Gondor, lots of work still to come, and hopefully this is something that people watching this video will be wanting to get involved in and wanting to help out with, because we always need more volunteers to help us build this world. But Gondor, of course, is only a part of this world. It's a large part of it, but it's only a part. We have Rohan over here. So this, for example, is where Edoras is. You can see the kind of footprint of Mediselv. If I zoom out again, we can go over to the West March, this part of Rohan that's of questionable loyalty to Theoden. You have Isengard, again, much closer to the West March than Edoras is, surrounded by these huge mountains. And I mentioned earlier in the recording, Isengard will have much better mountains around it, and here they are. So these are much larger and more significant mountains that will enclose Isengard a lot better in the future. So I can go up north now, following the spine of the Misty Mountains. Here we have Rivendell, for example. All the way to the north, we have the mountains of Angmar and Angmar itself. We have, if you go sort of westward into Eriador, you have the Ice Bay of Forakel here, or at least the sort of southern end of it. That's where the map itself cuts off. I'll bring you around into the Blue Mountains up here, and the island remnants of Beleriand. And something cool I can do actually is I can just bring up the view of Beleriand as it used to be, so that's sort of positioned correctly over the terrain, and you can see that very little of it is left. So the Blue Mountains are still here, of course. Tarnufuin became Tolfuin up there, so the island. But yeah, very little is left, and this is the where Gondolin was at one time. But yeah, hopefully just looking at this gives you a sense of how much work this is. If I zoom into any individual location, especially some of these rivers and mountains, you can see the sheer detail that's going into each of these places. You can see, just how much, effort and time and passion is going into it. And a lot of it is obviously being based on real places. We're taking satellite data, we're taking loads of real life references to stitch Middle-earth together in a way that feels kind of authentic to the real world. And yeah, it's a satisfying thing to achieve, and it's something that no one has ever really done with this world before, at least not to this degree and to this sort of level of detail. This, of course, is Erebor. Dale will be here, like Lake Esgaroth, I think it's called Lake Esgaroth, the Long Lake, and Esgaroth itself, the lake town, will be here on this square. Again, not really started yet. To the east, you have the Iron Hills. Down to the south, you have the river running, leading into the Sea of Rune. Further south again, of course, you have Mordor, and you have Gorgoroth. So obviously the part of Mordor that we're most familiar with is the one that's really, blackened and decimated, and nothing lives there, right? And this is the part that we see in the movies, and we really just see in the books as well. But Tolkien, of course, makes reference to other areas of Mordor to the south, and these being, in particular, the Sea of Nirn and the slave-worked farms around the Sea of Nirn as well. So, we have the beginnings of that planning going on down here as well. I really like, in particular in Mordor, this plume that's coming off Orodruin, so plume of ash that's kind of gone east with the prevailing winds and settled out on the plains of ash over here. And you can see that it's, been falling for so long that it's starting to form kind of dunes of ash. Not a pleasant place to be. To the south of Mordor, you have Horondor, this kind of debatable land that's technically claimed by Gondor, but no one really lives there. It's a fairly sort of deserted and quite hot area. And then to the south of it again, you have Harad, which is this enormous area that we only have, part of on our map, but even the part that we do have is absolutely enormous. So you have, for example, this huge area of desert, these dunes over here, which again are all being modelled quite realistically. You have a sort of rockier area and the desert to the east, and of course you have to the west you have Umbar, which is this coastal city that was founded by the Númenóreans. But yeah, I mean, I could go on for a while. As you can imagine, I've been making this map for 10 years. There's details everywhere. But to give you a sense of what, different views of the map, basically, and different ways of understanding it, I'd like to show you a couple of things which I think are really cool. So let me just bring this up. 2 seconds. There we go. So this is a kind of overview image of the map. This is a height map or a digital elevation map. And it's a really cool way of kind of understanding quickly the terrain and the shape of Middle-earth. And you can really see, for example, what really comes out here in a nice way, for example, is all of the river channels You can really clearly see them. But there's other cool ways of understanding the rivers, and that is this. So this is the watershed map of Middle-earth. So what this shows you basically is if a drop of rain falls on a particular location, what river system will it eventually end up in, basically, is what this is trying to say. So this big green one is the Vale of Anduin, which kind of, gets sourced up here near the kind of grey and misty mountains and ends up pouring into the sea in Gondor. But you can see the massive area that it actually draws water from. This blue one is the Isen. This pink one is the Grey Flood. This blue one is the Brandywine River, and so on and so forth. But again, you can see the sheer number of river systems and streams that are actually in this map, and that's really brought out really quite nicely here. This is the biome map of Middle-earth, so this is really cool. This basically shows you the different plant communities that would exist in Middle-earth. I can zoom in on them. You can see that they all have kind of labels. Those labels have real-life equivalents, are used by real botanists to categorize vegetation in Europe. And we will be doing a video on the ArdaCraft channel looking at this in more depth, hopefully in a few weeks' time. And that's just a cool overview image of the map. You can see it all in all of its glory, and that will continue to develop and improve with time. And this is just a cool way of really understanding the scale of the map. I mean, this is... so all of these are to scale, and hopefully some of you will have played some of these games. It seems very likely. And yeah, these are all to scale with each other, and you can see that these are some really big games, right? The Witcher 3 is a massive game. GTA 5 is a huge, huge map. But they're all kind of dwarfed by what we're doing here. And I think that's quite cool. So what I'm going to do now is switch back to the map quickly and zoom in. So we're up here in the north, Vales of Anduin. What we're going to do now is drop into back into the main recording. We're going to be up in the north Vales of Anduin. We're going to fly over the mountains to kind of finish out the recording with Matt, and this gives you a sense of what these mountains that we're looking at now actually look like when they're in game in all their glory. So I hope you enjoy. What we are looking at now is, in effect, the future of ArdaCraft, and the future of ArdaCraft is going to be this new map. So we're going to keep all of our builds, is the plan, basically, because a lot of the terrain will remain the same. But I was telling you earlier about how much bigger and better the mountains are going to get. This is a kind of preview of that. So here we are. This is the northern Vales of Anduin. We're kind of looking southwest towards the Misty Mountains. And yeah, the mountains are much better modeled. They're much larger. The trees here are just a placeholder, but it gives you a sense of scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are truly enormous. You can see actually off in the distance there, that little three-peaked mountain there. That you were just looking at, if you pan back left again and zoom in, that is Mount Gundabad.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, right there. So that's where we are in Middle-earth.
Oh, cool.
And you can start sort of flying over towards that to get into Angmar. But yeah, I mean, this is where things are going for us. We have this fantastic work that we're doing. We have all of these builds that we're creating. But in the end, the vision is that these will all be in this unified, finished, polished Middle-earth map, where we have geologists that are feeding into this. We have, an enormous number of trees, 32,000 trees being made, and there's a video on our YouTube channel about how that's working and how that looks. We have full biomes being worked out for Middle-earth, as Sean mentioned earlier. So every single place will kind of correspond to an equivalent location, like mostly in Europe and North Africa, because that's where Middle-earth kind of is, quote unquote, in the world.
Right.
So all of the species are kind of appropriate to that. And all of this is being worked out. So there's an enormous other component to the project, as well as all the building stuff, is just the sheer amount of work and time that's going into creating this terrain and making it feel as real as possible within the bounds, obviously, of Minecraft. So yeah, awesome. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the new mountains in place, and the updates that this will bring, and the new look to so many of the areas that already look amazing. Now we mentioned earlier, at the top of the stream that anyone can come in and explore, but you guys are obviously always looking for people to volunteer their time, that folks who are into Minecraft and into Lord of the Rings and into the world of Middle Earth. So how would people go about, if they want to get involved and help, make this amazing project even more amazing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very easy to join. I mean, we have a website where, very clear join instructions. As long as you own a copy of Minecraft and you have a PC, you can join right in. Past that point, we have a Discord. You can join in there. We have a very clear application process, how to actually become a builder on the server. That's all detailed as soon as you join, but also there's lots of other places where you can find that information. We all run that via Discord. We have mentors who can help you. The key thing to emphasize here is you're seeing all this amazing stuff. You don't need to be like Michelangelo in Minecraft to do this. You can just join in, help us do a field, help us do a house. We will get you to that level that you need to be at. And then, a lot of this stuff is being done by people who have years and years of experience, right? And so people stick around, they build up to that, and they become, not only do they become great builders and artists, but frankly, they become, you get project management skills and research skills and people management skills and all of the stuff that goes into real life projects goes into a project like this because of its size and complexity, right? So there's so much to get out of it. We obviously have a really friendly international community from all over the world who are helping to do this. We are close enough that 9 of us met up in Oxford last year to be at Oxenmoot, the Tolkien Society event. It's brilliant. So we've made lifelong friends here, and we are creating this incredible world together. And I want more people to join, and I want more people to see it for themselves, because that's what we're doing it for Tolkien fans. Really, I mean, that's why we're here. So yeah. Hopefully that's the pitch, right? That's the pitch for people.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
If this hasn't convinced you, then it may not be.
I don't know what will. I mean, we're looking at all these iconic locations. It looks just amazing. And I know we've explored it before, 4 years ago, like we said, but just revisiting it and seeing, things like I feel like even the lighting, I could tell a difference in the lighting from last time. Maybe I'm
big time.
It, but I feel like there's been just general updates to Minecraft as a whole that have really allowed this to shine even more than last time. Well, guys, definitely give ArdaCraft a follow on social media. The website ardacraft.me. That's where you get those instructions how to join their Discord, join the Minecraft server, and if you're the creative type, if you're the Minecraft type, if you're just the Middle Earth type, and you want to help out and put your small mark on Middle Earth here by helping them expand and create this amazing place, go to ardacraft.me. And Jack, thank you so much for joining me once again. Thank you to Sean, who is the other person you hear chime in there, and Worst for being our camera guy, giving us these awesome views of everything. Thank you to everyone at ArdaCraft. You guys are doing amazing work.
It's been a pleasure, Matt, and I hope to have you back on in the future for more areas of Middle Earth.
Absolutely.
There's lots left to see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again, guys. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.